Alright, so I was planning on getting to Super Mario 3D All-Stars, or 3D Collection as it's known here in Japan, eventually, but it took me a little bit of time to beat the whole thing. So I went through each game and beat all of them. I didn't go through and 100% them this time, I just beat them from start to finish. And, well, there's a lot to say, but I think most of that's already been said. But I'm going to try to go ahead and just kind of give my thoughts on what I wrote down while I was playing. I tried to avoid other reviews on purpose, but I'd imagine some of my points are echoed through other game reviewers, so it was a game that I was kind of looking forward to, but it turned out to be everything that I thought it would be. I wasn't sure how to break down this review or overview or whatever I'll eventually end up calling it, but here are my thoughts. Alright, so right off the bat I was a bit meh on the title screen. I like the galaxy theme, but an original piece would have been nicer, I think. The title screen itself is a bit plain, but it works since it's the All-Star collection, so each Mario getting the star, it's fine. The game selection screen is okay, but again, plain is just the word that comes to mind. It's a bit of my pet peeve here. I don't know if it's a real complaint or not, but I don't like the way they organized the soundtracks. I wish they had done that a little bit differently. It reminds me of a folder you have on your computer where you just throw everything in one spot. And yeah, it cycles through different songs, but like I mentioned with the title screen, I think an original piece would have been nice here too. I imagine this is something that not many people thought about, but there is an ability to select different languages in the game if that's something you need to do. This also seems a bit half-baked, since not every game has the same amount of languages. And yes, this is probably due to the fact that Nintendo didn't translate a lot of their games at first. This didn't happen until much later, as you can see with the progression from languages in Mario 64, Sunshine, and then Galaxy. But you would have assumed they'd have done this for this game at least. Sorry to anyone who wanted to play Super Mario 64 in Korean. Maybe they'll patch it in later. So I won't get too in-depth about the games, but in terms of the upgrades, there's a few of them. The text and the HUD have been redone, but other than that, there aren't really any major graphical updates, since for the most part, these games are emulated from what I've read. And that's a real point of contention. This game costed $60 in the States, and it's about the same price here in Japan. It's actually a little bit more from the Nintendo store, but paying $60 for 3 emulated games is a bit rough, I think. Actually, it's very rough. But with that being said, we have to consider the market and the current situation Nintendo is in. Nintendo is on the proverbial top of the gaming world at the moment. Yes, the PS5 is selling out and going for crazy prices on the internet, but when you look at Nintendo sales in the US, Europe, and Japan, they are better than ever. Each month you see how the Switch is selling gangbusters, and because of that, there's really no reason to try or put any extra effort in. I know it sounds a bit cynical to say it, but there isn't a need to do more than this. I bought it, and others bought it, and, well, it just sold well across the board. When the game was announced, I figured that this would happen, and at the time, while I couldn't wrap my head around why people would want to buy this, it was my friends, actually, who helped remind me, though inadvertently. They don't have anything outside of a Switch, and haven't had a system to play Mario 64 in over 10 years. I imagine there's a lot of people out there like this too. And when you look at the Japanese commercials, they even allude to this. That's who a majority of the audience is, or it's at least who Nintendo seems to think it is. And while that is in no way a justification for what Nintendo has done, I do think it brings some perspective to the issue. Speaking purely from my own selfish perspective, some extras like more art, interviews maybe, videos or things like that would have been really great. I'd love to have gotten a look at the development of these games. And so then for the games themselves, I would have loved to see a bit more graphical polishing to Sunshine and Galaxy, although I know they do look nice overall, but a little bit more would have been better, I think. Mario 64, on the other hand, I know, I get it. This game is iconic and so is the look, but in a world where we already have the 64 remake on the 3DS, and we have an amazing PC port, I don't see why they couldn't have done something similar. Super Mario 3D All-Stars is an example of a company putting out an acceptable product without having to put in the extra effort because they know they have an audience. They're a lot like Disney in that regard. I didn't want this whole video to be overly negative, but there's not really much else I can say. In terms of the games themselves, it was certainly fun playing them again. The convenience of playing them on the Switch is huge, I definitely get it. And I'm okay with this game existing as it is, but for $60, it's just too much. I think 30 or 40 would have been much more acceptable, but Nintendo is not one to lower their game prices. And while I didn't mention the March 31st deadline, I think that's just because Nintendo is going to eventually put out an N64 online app and maybe a GameCube one, so not really worried that this game will disappear forever. And as for Galaxy 2, I'm sure they have something planned for it down the road. If that game was included here, then maybe a $60 price tag would have been justifiable. You can see them doing what they did for the Wii U and just have Wii games released through a virtual console-like service. Again, there's a reason they left it off, and I'm sure we'll find out at some point. So that's about it. I had fun playing the games like I said, but it kinda dampens the Mario anniversary a little bit, at least to me anyway. Maybe they're saving a full effort release for the 50th anniversary, or next time a console flops.
What's wrong with you?
Anyway, thanks for watching, see you next time.